Apparently, the Clippers still have some jet lag issues after being on the road for 7 games in 13 days. They were sluggish last night against New Orleans. The Clippers committed 19 turnovers and lost by 11 at Crypto.com. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George made only 7 of 25 shots. PG was 0 for 8 on three-pointers. This team needs some rest. The NBA trade deadline is today at noon. The Lakers may be on the clock. Stay tuned. Kobe Bryant's statue will be unveiled today at 3 p.m. in Star Plaza outside Crypto. Kobe is the 6th Lakers player to have a statue outside the arena. He joins Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Shaquille O'Neal, and Magic Johnson. The NFL Hall of Fame, the class of 2024, will be announced tonight in Vegas. Former Chargers tight end Antonio Gates, an 8-time All-Pro, is among the finalists. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Drop that.
You like the style, though?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we are unapologetic about amplifying the voices of those who have historically been left out of the conversation. As we approach our 3rd anniversary this summer, the problem with talk radio in Southern California specifically, and America more broadly, is virtually unchanged. All day, all night, all white. We make no apologies for our prime audience, but true to the best of our tradition, we're committed to expanding justice and freedom for all. So when we receive messages from listeners like Neil, we just smile.
I realize that I'm not your target demographic, but I love listening to your station as it is the only progressive station on the dial.
That's us. Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Yeah, calm down. We're about to talk about immigration. 800-920-1580. If you've got something to say on that topic, and I'm sure that you do, after Tuesday's talking point Titanic crash of a conversation and the subsequent follow-up on X. So I'd love to hear from you. If you got strong feelings, you can express them here, 800-920-1580, or you can keep on expressing them online. We're at KBLA 1580 on all platforms, and I am at DiPrima Radio, DIPRIMA, and then radio. Please like, follow, subscribe, and comment. Joining me to have this important conversation is a human and civil rights attorney with a specialty in criminal defense. She's been doing it since 1994. She graduated from Cornell University, thank you very much, and got her law degree from UCLA School of Law. She worked with Chokwe Lumumba at the Black Law Institute while she was still in law school, and co-organized and directed community organizing, that aspect of the defense of the LA 4, plus a nickname given to those men who were charged in that attack on Reginald Denny. She is the executive director right now of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. Attorney Nana Gyamfi, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yep. I feel kind of bad, but not really, because I feel like every time I invite you on lately, we're talking about immigration. There's lots of other things to talk about. But every time I think it couldn't get any more crazy, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where we are. We right now are looking at a Senate bill that is really the part of what I call Biden's broken or bankrupt border bill, because he's the person that's been trying to get somebody to sign it, whether it be on the House side or the Senate side, to turn into law a lot of policies that are not only going to harm migrants, particularly Black migrants, which, who are the people that aren't talked about hardly at all unless we see images of them getting whipped, right, by people on horseback. And also is going to translate into enforcement that's going to be harmful to African American communities as well, right? So for BAJI, we fight for the rights of Black migrants and African Americans, and we try to look from that lens. What's happening on the immigration side that also is going to impact African Americans in particular ways, and this bill is one of those things.
Okay, so we got a lot to cover here, and luckily I know you're very used to doing radio. You have your own radio show, so we can get a lot in a little bit of time. So what you're talking about is this so-called bipartisan bill. It's a $118 billion bill that is coming out of negotiation between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, along with, as you say, the Biden administration. But I mean, ironically enough, it looked like it was going to pass, and then Trump kind of did his secret smoke signals on that platform, Truth Social, that he has, and let Republicans know that he didn't want to give Biden what he considered a win. He wants to be able to run on immigration as a problem and the borders being inundated. So, I mean, it's ironic because it sounds like in this case, you're thankful that Trump is tanking this bill?
Yes. And it won't be the first time. Yes. I mean, and maybe for the first time with Trump, but not the first time necessarily with Republicans. The reason that they're tanking the bill is not a good reason, because it's just them listening to their little leader, as Representative Jasmine Crockett calls him appropriately, out of Texas. But the reality is that, yes, this bill is a bill that we don't want to have passed. And from a political perspective, we don't care how it's gotten rid of. However, we do need to deal with some of the negative aspects of this bill, just because they continue to cause the kinds of conversations you had on Tuesday in terms of the misinformation or the narratives that this kind of bill puts out there.
Right. So I want to deal with some of those things. I mean, when you refer to Tuesday, you're talking about a discussion with conservative out of Chicago, Mark Carter, and it's more. I think it's more extreme in Chicago. But we're seeing these clashes in a lot of big cities because Republicans have successfully bused immigrants from border states to big cities. And they've done it to put a strain on the safety net and put a strain on the budget of those cities, which is ironic considering the blue states and blue cities are underwriting a lot of their budgets as it is with our revenues. That said, there are, I think, a growing number of Black people who feel that this influx of immigrants and the resources that go to them punishes Black people, undermines our ability to get funding for our schools, for our own health care and resources that are needed, housing and the like.
So I think there's two things we need to separate, and I'll do so quickly. One issue is have Black people, and when I say Black people, I'm going to say specifically African Americans, even though we all live together. So there's no Black community that doesn't have Black migrants in it. And again, it's because people are ignoring the Black migrant part of this conversation that we've been having this conversation at this level, right? But okay, when you look at Black folks, have Black communities been abandoned by government? Absolutely. We see what's happening with housing. We see what's happening with services. A lot of money is going to police, not enough money into our communities. Got you. The other issue, however, is whether or not migrants coming in, whether they be Black or not, are taking away. And that's not what's happening. This abandonment happened before. And because there is some funds that come in that are specifically because people are, for example, refugees, that does not mean the same thing for these asylum seekers that are coming across the border. They get nothing. There's nothing that they are entitled to. I will say that what we do as BAJI is talk to elected officials, doing that right here in LA with the city and the county, saying, look, You've got to reverse your policies that have led to the abandonment of Black communities and see how we invest in communities that are vulnerable across the board. And so really leaning on, for example, the experience of Black migrants to lift the boats for African Americans as well. That's how we should be moving there. Not prioritizing migrants, not saying migrants can die, but figuring out how we leverage together to be able to get the government back on the page of providing for our communities.
Well, Mark and some of his colleagues say that, Black veterans are dying on the streets of Chicago while migrants are, or what he would call illegal immigrants, are having housing, being put up in schools, having tent encampments erected for them.
Right. And so I think we, again, have to pull the pieces apart. So when we look at what is happening with respect to migrants that are coming in and that are being provided with some level of housing, et cetera, in Chicago, because understand that ain't happening in L.A., but in Chicago, where some of that is occurring, initially that was occurring as a response, as you said, to these buses, because when you say you're bringing in people to protect them, you do have a responsibility. At the border, Texas towns as part of their...
When you say protect them, you're talking about as asylum seekers, not necessarily as the sanctuary city concept.
Correct. Not the sanctuary city concept doesn't have anything to do with that. What that means is that they won't call ICE on you, and every sanctuary city calls ICE on you. So but that's a separate conversation, a separate show. This is about when there's a convention that the United States has signed on to that made it U.S. law around asylum. You know how people say if Trump gets elected, I'm going to run to Canada? You'd be running to Canada as an asylee, okay? Saying, help me because of my government, right?
Right.
And then Canada will be responsible to doing something for you if they accept you in the country. They can't say, here, yeah, I'm coming to protect you, but go ahead and sleep on the sidewalk. On the other hand, most migrants are sleeping on the sidewalk. Only people who are getting anything at all, which is very little, are maybe the folks that came on the buses, which Black migrants did not. So the Black migrants that are coming across the border are sleeping right next to the vets on the ground, speaking no English, not having any support. No one's helping them out. That doesn't mean that we are saying as Black migrants, therefore they should shut down the border, even though we are being discriminated against. Because I would tell Mark that 20,000 Ukrainians were resettled in Chicago. If he didn't scream about those 20,000 white folks, I don't want to hear him screaming about 20,000 anybody else.
He'll say he's screaming about everybody. I mean, because we had that exchange. But I want to, and we'll do it, some of it when we come forward, but I want to do it before I forget. If I ran to the border, to the Canadian border, and I said, help, they've reelected Trump, and I feel that I'm going to be targeted as an outspoken critic of Trump, what would happen to me? This is one of the arguments I consistently hear. If you show up at anybody else's border, asylum seeker or otherwise, you're going to get thrown out.
No, that's not true. You're not going to get thrown out. And in fact, that's why the United States is trying to negotiate stuff with Canada, because they're like, hey, we want to make it so that people aren't coming through our country trying to get to your country. The United States is not the number one country even that brings in people who are asylees. If you look on the continent, Egypt, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, all of these countries are doing more proportionally than the United States is doing. But anyone that signed that treaty has to let you in. So, yes, Canada would have to let you in, just like in the United States and all over the world. You'd have to prove that you're actually running from persecution. You couldn't just say that with your mouth. You'd have a hearing. You'd have to prove that. If they agreed with you, then you would be able to stay. And if they didn't agree with you and you had no other legal basis for staying in the country, then you'd be deported. And that happens in the United States every day. In fact, we have more deportations happening now than we have had since Obama. Remember how I used to call him the deporter-in-chief? That crown has been taken from him. Okay? So this country is deporting people. By Biden. Yeah. This country's supporting people. It's expelling people without even letting them have the hearing. It's doing all the things that people say it is not doing in order to show that they are not just letting people run over the border like the marauding crowd in the movie Birth of a Nation. These are talking points based on lies. And you know what? These are the same lies that you can see if you go and search on the internet, that you had people in L.A. who were the first black folks to get here literally saying, and I just don't want, I hear people are coming from Mississippi and Alabama, and they're going to interrupt our lives and change our lives the way that they were, because that's what people say. Remember Katrina? People were calling those kids Katrina kids. That's what people do when people come into their communities, when their communities are already stretched. We got to know history, know present, and build a different future with an understanding of what's going on here. Stop falling for the okie doke. Goodness gracious.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what Talking Point Tuesday is all about. But, of course, that's kind of what KBLA Talk 1580 is all about. If you have the other doke, then you don't have to get the okie doke. You can get the FACTS, the facts. We're talking with Attorney Nana Gyamfi, and you, if you want to jump in, 800-920-1580. The topic, immigration. What is really going on? What should we as progressives be doing about it? What should we as black people, especially black Americans, be knowing and doing about it as well? This is KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyaudio.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyaudio.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, we're talking with attorney Nana Gyamfi. She's the executive director of BAJI. You can find them at BAJI Tweets on X. They are the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. She's also a civil rights and criminal attorney who's been involved in many justice campaigns. So some folks are obviously being disingenuous and spreading, misinformation, but there's also a lot of confusion. So we just talked about this idea of asylum seeking. If I run to Canada, they'd take me and find out if I could prove that I was in danger from the Orange Menace. And if I couldn't, then I would be ejected. If I could, would they put me in a tent and give me Canadian food stamps. I mean, or I think part of the problem, or part of what people criticize here, is that because our immigration courts and our processing system is so backed up, that people are released into the country and may never show up to court, or it may be years before they actually get to that hearing where someone decides whether they have a credible claim of refugee status.
Yeah, let me talk specifically about Black migrants, because that's my crew, right?
Okay.
Black migrants come from everywhere. So they come from every country. They come from Mexico. They come from Central America, the Garifuna, for example. They come from Brazil, the Colombia, everywhere. But also the folks that people don't really talk about from the Caribbean, from the continent of Africa, et cetera. So folks that make it, that are Black migrants, that are able to make it to the border, are coming through a lot of danger. They are risking death. They're risking rape. They're risking robbery. They're not coming for Disneyland. They're not coming so they can come to this country and have to live in the shadows. They are the people that, if this were a movie, we'd be rooting for them to make it out of danger, persecution. We'd be rooting for them to make it through all of the trials and tribulations, to be able to get to this land where they would be protected. And we, the moviegoers, would be totally disappointed to find that when they finally got to the place that they had been trying to get to for months, that they were being treated like vermin who were coming to poison the place. The reports show that 90% and sometimes more of asylum seekers come back to court. They come back to court because they want to get the status. They want to be able to send their kids to school, go to work, all of the things that they cannot do in their countries because they're being persecuted, they want to do here. They're not here for a nefarious purpose. It's not like they're fugitives hiding from the law. No, they're coming here, they're presenting themselves, they're saying who they are, they're filling out forms, they're going to court, right? These are the same kind of lies that we're told about why you can't have a no cash bail system. They're going to come to court, and, what they have various possibilities in terms of what may allow them to be able to stay here. They're going to try to exercise those possibilities and stay here. So the idea that people are coming here and they're going and hiding so that they can make $3 an hour under the table and be abused by people with no labor rights is preposterous. That's not why you leave your country.
Yeah, the other thing that I heard a lot in a conversation in X Spaces is that asylum law, and I'm not a lawyer, and this isn't my area of expertise, but that asylum law requires that you go to the nearest country that could offer you asylum. In other words, you shouldn't be coming from Africa all the way through Mexico or around the Canadian border to get into the United States. If you're in Africa, you should go to the nearest African nation. If you're in, Latin America, you should go to the nearest Latin American country.
Yeah, that's not correct. Asylum law clearly says that you can go to any place that you choose. You get to choose where to go for asylum. Refugee is different. In refugee, you go to the refugee office in your country and say, hey, this is terrible, send me anywhere. And they send you anywhere. But asylum is not the same. If you go someplace, you can pick where the place is. That's number one. Number two, most asylum seekers have gone to other places. So most asylum seekers on the continent do go to another place on the continent, never make it here, and don't even try. Those who have tried or do try to come to the United States from the continent have already tried in other countries. Folks in Central America and South America have already tried in other countries and have not been able to get protection there, have not been safe there, and have bought into the story that the U.S. tells the world, that the advertisement, that this is the place where you can be safe. Now, they don't know that the police can shoot you dead as a Black person walking around these streets. We have to let them know that as BAJI when they get here, so that they have a better understanding of what safety is and is not for Black people in this country. But that's their understanding, is that the U.S. is safe, and so they can choose to go from wherever they are to the United States. That is asylum law. That's what they're trying to change, to make something different in this country. But that is what the law is.
And that's what it's been for A long, long time. That's an important distinction. I think even for myself, I have some confusion about the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee.
Right, because they're both seeking protection. Sometimes people put them under the same hat. But when someone says they're a refugee, they are a person who's going usually to a place like the UN Office of Human Rights, right? The Human Rights Commissioner, and saying, hey, because of my situation, I have to leave my country and I need some place to go. You have people in Sudan that are doing that right now. They're going, of course, not in Sudan because it's a war. They're going to Egypt. They're going to Kenya, right? And saying that they're a refugee and trying to see where they can go. A place like the United States has supposedly 125,000 spots for them, but hasn't even done 12,000 of those spots or something outside of if you're Ukrainian, okay? And so in that vibe, you could end up anywhere. They could just say, okay, you end up in Denmark. Don't you question sometimes, like, why are there these African people living in Norway? Yes, well, because Norway has spots, and Norway says, I'll take them, and then they end up going to Norway. That's different than an asylum seeker who is taking themselves to a space, sometimes to an embassy. Remember Julian Assange?
Yeah, Julian Assange went to the embassy seeking, what was it? Well, first, yeah, I went to the embassy in Bolivia, I think it was, seeking asylum, because he was actually, trying to avoid extradition here to the United States of America. We've lost Attorney Nana Gyamfi, working on getting her back on the phone. But when you talk about, misrepresentation of what asylum seekers can or cannot do, and the difference between asylum seekers and refugees, the other argument or the other talking point, I guess I'll call it, I think we have Attorney Gyamfi back, is that if you are an asylum seeker, you can't come, earn money, and then go back to, once you've earned money, go back to the country from which you came, because that definitionally means you are just here for economic opportunity.
Yeah, but asylees don't do that. Like when someone comes here and says they declare asylum or they want to claim asylum, and they're not trying to go back. That's the whole point, is that they're saying that because of the danger in my home country, I cannot return. And in fact, they're not able to return in that process. If you're sitting around in that process, you're not able to now say, hey, I'm asylee, but I'm going to go back. The people who are seeking asylum that are being deported back are not asking to go back. They would rather not be deported back. They're deported in shackles, in handcuffs, and with shackles on their feet. This is not a voluntary action on their part unless they self-deport, which is, those folks don't have any funds. You don't get even the right to a work permit for 6 months as an asylee.
Unless you're Venezuelan in New York.
Right, exactly.
Unless you're
on a parole program, right? So if you're Cuban, Venezuelan, Nicaraguan, Haitian, those are the only folks who are able to have a sooner work permit situation. But everyone else, and you're not Ukrainian or Afghani, right, or from Afghanistan. But, the average black migrant, for example, who is not able to do that. So they just are trying to figure out how to survive for 5-6 months without government money. No one's giving them money. They don't get credit cards. They're not getting any of that. And if they don't have family, which some of them do, but if you don't have family, then you're depending on folks like BAJI or other organizations that are trying to see how we can help folks out with toiletries and backpacks and those kinds of things. Otherwise, you're just sleeping on the sidewalk. Talk to folks at LA Can. There's all these migrants, particularly black migrants, right there on Skid Row. Right there on Skid Row.
We got news, traffic, and sports right here, then continuing the conversation on immigration with Attorney Nana Gyamfi, KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 5 Marines who had been missing in California have been found dead. A search began for their helicopter after it was reported overdue early Wednesday morning. The helicopter was found yesterday in Pine Valley, just over 40 miles east of San Diego. The Marines were taking part in a training flight from Creech Air Force Base near Las Vegas, Nevada, when it was reported overdue. In Maryland, law enforcement leaders are celebrating Black History Month. Maryland State Police Colonel Roland Butler Jr. was recently joined by police chiefs from Anne Arundel and Baltimore counties for a special conversation about the history they've made in their careers. Butler was the first black person appointed as superintendent of Maryland State Police. You can view the full video on YouTube. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Robert Half research indicates 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Their recruiting professionals use proprietary AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Apparently, the Clippers still have some jet lag issues after being on the road for 7 games in 13 days. They were sluggish last night against New Orleans. The Clippers committed 19 turnovers and lost by 11 at Crypto.com. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George made only 7 of 25 shots. PG was 0 for 8 on 3-pointers. This team needs some rest. The NBA trade deadline is today at noon. The Lakers may be on the clock. Stay tuned. Kobe Bryant's statue will be unveiled today at 3 p.m. in Star Plaza outside Crypto. Kobe is the 6th Lakers player to have a statue outside the arena. He joins Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Shaquille O'Neal, and Magic Johnson. The NFL Hall of Fame, the class of 2024, will be announced tonight in Vegas. Former Chargers tight end Antonio Gates, an 8-time All-Pro, is among the finalists. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's time to represent your community in the 2024 presidential primary election. When you vote, you get to decide what is best for you, your neighborhood, and your family. Use your power. Make a plan to vote today. Visit plan.lavote.gov. That's plan.lavote.gov to get everything you need to vote in the March 5th presidential primary election.
Got me a damn girl on my team.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe we have the best tag team in morning radio. Dominique DiPrima and Tavis Smiley. As the first black woman in Los Angeles to anchor a morning drive talk radio show, Dominique covers local politics like a blanket. Weekday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., Dominique passes the baton to Tavis Smiley, who talks to everybody about everything every day until 12 noon. KBLA's dynamic duo, Dominique and Tavis. It's no wonder the LA Civil Rights Department is honoring Dominique DiPrima this year at its Tell Our Story honoring black journalist leaders and storytellers event, Thursday, February 8th. Or that the John M. Langston Bar Association of Los Angeles is honoring Tavis Smiley at its 47th Annual Installation and Scholarship Awards Gala with its Community Impact Award on February 10th. We couldn't be more proud of Dominique and Tavis, who make black history every day, not just in February. If you're missing Dominique and Tavis weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Holla, yeah.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA Can believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Okay, we're talking with attorney Nana Gyamfi. So much of this conversation might seem basic to you, but I feel like as recent polling shows that many Americans feel that immigration is a top concerning issue for them. And as we monitor the mainstream media and see that there is a consistent reporting of a crisis at the border. And the data seem to show that we have seen an increase in the number of folks coming, but I don't know, at what point does it become a crisis? I don't know. But certainly, for whatever reason, the hype is at a point where people are feeling this is a crisis. In fact, Mark Carter said on this show on Tuesday that immigrants are being brought in to replace Black Americans, that Democrats feel that if they can bring in all these immigrants that will vote for Democrats, which I don't know how they're going to guarantee that, but that would vote for Democrats, then they wouldn't need Black Americans anymore, and we would be abandoned even more than we already have been.
So, that's a version of the Great Replacement theory, which is literally a white supremacist theory that is used about Black people, that they're being overrun by African Americans. Forget about the migrants in this country. And, they're looking up and they're seeing the president and the vice president and all of these people that are in positions and going to school are Black people. And they're saying, oh, my gosh, we're being overrun. And that's what's leading to the banning of books and the banning of history, the end of DEI, the end of affirmative action. It is the same playbook. And it's based, again, on the same kind of lies. First of all, most people, when they come into this country, it takes them years, you hear me, years to become a citizen, years. So it's the long game that we try to pretend that the white man is omniscient, that, knows everything and is all powerful and all of that, and is planning 20 years ahead for what's going to happen with these people. That is foolishness. You can't just bring people in and suddenly now they're voters. That's not how it works, number one. Number two, perhaps they are also, most of the folks that are talking this way, trying to court migrants to vote in their way, right? To vote for Trump, to vote Republican, and talking about the numbers of migrants or people who are immigrants who are voting Republican. So this idea that immigrants automatically vote Democrat is, again, debunked by their own understandings of what's happening. And I would say, thirdly, that when we talk about the replacement, I think it's very interesting. Like, I say this all the time. When we talk about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, and, we know that was a rape situation. And then if Tom decides to also go and grab Rosa, Sally would never be looking at Rosa and saying, oh, my gosh, I'm being replaced. It's like, this is foolishness. What we need to be doing is trying to figure out how to deal with Tommy. We're being abused. We're being abandoned. We're being oppressed. How do we bond together to push back against abandonment and oppression instead of fighting with each other to be the abandoned and oppressed ones? That doesn't make any sense. That's not a power-building strategy. And some of these people don't want to build power. They just want to follow their little leader. Good for you. But for those of us that want to build power, we understand that we build power by getting together and squaring up with the government and making the demands for what it is that we all need as human beings.
Okay. There's so much there, but I want to go to Morris from Inglewood. Hi, Morris. You're on with attorney Nana Gyamfi.
Inglewood, good morning, everybody. Boy, am I digging this conversation. Now, check this out. Your boy, former President Johnson, he once said something, and I think it's relevant today. He said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the highest Black man, then he will allow you to pick his pocket. And what that translates into is he doesn't care about the quality of life he's living as long as he's better than a brother. Now, I want to comment on something. You know, the folks coming over here from the southern border, them some incredible people. Absolutely incredible people. The reason why they're coming over here is because our corporations, which are subsidized, right? They're putting them out of business. They can't grow corn. That's their economy. That's the staple. They can't survive. So they're going where they can survive. But they never tell you that narrative. They also don't tell you that the narrative that we went from $1 billion to $4 billion with a B, not with an M, with a B, in terms of Lockheed, Boeing, and Raytheon. Their equipment that's going down there, just filing them people with their equipment that they have. They're like toys. They're just simply toys. But, sister, I'm glad you're talking about this. What we all need to do is get understanding. And the understanding starts with Christianity. Once you understand what Christianity's ideas are towards you, you can move. But until you address that, you're going to be doing that 360. Dominique, I love you. Have a nice morning.
Okay, appreciate you, Morris. Although, to be clear, I mean, someone could be seeking asylum. They could be from any faith tradition. They would still have that same right. Okay, so this is not just coming from any party or any particular, well, probably a party, but not from any particular conversation. But what I'm hearing a lot on the internet is that we will not get reparations as Black people because we are spending all the money on immigration. This is one of the things I was clashing with Mark about, because I'm saying, show me the connection. Why are we saying reparations it won't come because of immigration, as opposed to reparations won't come because the country spends too much on its defense budget, or too much on law enforcement, or too much on, any other thing? And why? But I see a lot of Black folks making this argument. We will not get reparations because we are spending the money on immigration.
So it's not too much different than the conversation about replacement, right? And the conversation about we don't have housing, we don't have this. It's the same conversation. It's just that they know that as Black people, we want folks to have reparations. So they know that. And so they know that that's a trigger issue, right? That's something that's going to make African Americans say, oh, no, because there's such a push for reparations. I will say this, that the United States today could give reparations to African Americans in this country. BAJI has been part of the push for reparations for African Americans in this country, particularly in California, and the work that was done here. We absolutely believe, as Black migrant and migrant-rooted people, because I was born here, as you know, but my parents are born and come from Ghana, that African Americans should get reparations. And I would argue that there should be a conversation, since most people in their home country are talking about reparations and have a good understanding of reparations, to bring in migrants on the side of reparations for African Americans in the same way they want reparations in their country. You feel what I'm saying? So that this conversation becomes a conversation of international pressure on the United States to give reparations to African Americans. But you got to think outside the box to be able to have that conversation. And, folks are being, again, led by talking heads in other places other than KBLA about what it is that they ought to be thinking about.
When we talk about, the terminology, a lot of the news reports in the mainstream media, they say migrants, you hear asylum seekers, you hear illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, just plain illegals. And some make the argument that, they're not against asylum seekers, but we are being overrun by illegals. Every other country has laws about what you can and cannot do to get in there, and that the United States is lackadaisical, putting asylum seekers to the side for a moment and addressing the issue of people that just come illegally because they feel that they can.
Again, in other countries, it is literally not illegal. It's not against the law to cross the border without, quote unquote, inspections. In other countries, that's not even a crime. In this country, the number of people, over 50% of the people that are being tried and convicted in federal court right now are being tried and convicted for illegal entry and illegal reentry, quote unquote, right? So that should be made clear to people. There's no lackadaisical thing happening here. The second thing, which is even more important, is that people have this notion that there's some kind of process outside of asylum, refugee, for example, that there's some kind of process by which people can come here and they should just get in line, fill out their paperwork and get in line. And don't understand that, number one, there's very few processes that people can come to. James Baldwin can get up and go to France. Okay, and the French can get up and come to the United States. That is not the case with most countries from the global South, and in particular, black countries, right? And so you have a process you have to go through. And even you apply, it's $300, and you get, this is for the travel visa, and you get rejected all the time. In fact, the majority of folks are rejected, but the U.S. still keeps their money. Whole embassies are running off of that money. And so the number of ways you can come are limited. So when you limit the number of ways that people can come, just like anything, then people are going to make a way out of no way. That's what make a way out of no way means. There's no way, and you are making a way. And that's what happens. If you want people to not go to the no way, right, then you've got to make a way. And that's why people should be joining organizations like BAJI and saying, hey, increase the numbers of ways and make it easier for people to have quote-unquote legal processes for people to come through here, make immigration an administrative process, and let us be able to come in this country like Joe Biden's Irish people came through this country.
Or Donald Trump's.
Well, no, we don't want those people to come to this country.
True that, but that's what they did. They came on, they immigrated on over here.
Down to his own wife, right? So,
especially his own wife.
Family.
Yeah. So, and she's an anchor baby, right? Because her parents came on in. But anyway, the other thing is why, you're saying there are limited processes if you're just trying to come because you want to come. But if you're an asylum seeker, why not go to the embassy, or why not check in at a checkpoint? Why go to a coyote or a human trafficker or try to sneak across the Rio Grande?
Because they won't take you in these countries. They barely would let you get in the embassy. You'll go to the Ghana embassy. You can't just walk in. I'm telling you, it's amazing.
I've actually driven by there. Yeah, you can't. And you can't take pictures of it, and you can't walk in. That's true.
So how are you going to do that? You know what I'm saying? They purposely have made it so that you as an African, as a Ghanaian, even to get a travel visa to say, I want to come visit my cousin Nana, you cannot just walk into that place. And so they've made it so that you cannot do that. That is a U.S. decision. And I promise you, when I go to Great Britain and I have to go to the U.S. Embassy, I can go inside of there.
Talking to attorney Nana Gyamfi. She's the executive director of Black Alliance for a Just Immigration, BAJI, BAJI.org, or BAJI tweets on X, continuing the conversation about immigration, legal, illegal, and other on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Listen up, City of Los Angeles renters that live in rent-controlled units. Landlords can now increase your rent by 4%. Know these 3 facts. The rent increase is allowed February 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. An extra 1% per utility up to 6% can be added if the landlord pays the entire gas and electric bill. And illegal rent increase complaints can be filed at housing.lacity.org. Check if you live in a rent-controlled unit and learn more at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home.
Hey, Joe Montana here. Back in my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia, a bacterial lung disease that can be life-threatening. If you're 65 or older, or 19 or older with certain chronic conditions like diabetes or asthma, you're at increased risk. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination and learn more at knowpneumonia.com. That's KNOW pneumonia.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because no two people sleep the same. Only the Sleep Number smart bed lets you each choose your individual firmness and comfort, your Sleep Number setting. The Climate 360 smart bed is so smart it actively cools or warms up to 13 degrees on either side for your ideal sleep temperature. And now, during our President's Day sale, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed, plus free home delivery when you add an adjustable base. Ends Monday. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Get Jackson Hewitt has a plan to get your tax refund fast. With a buck here, buck there. Here a buck, there a buck, everywhere a buck.
You don't have to wait weeks for your tax refund. Get money sooner with a no-fee refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt.
On this loan, there's a money today guarantee. E-I-E-I-DO.
Don't settle for chicken feed. Get fast bucks at Jackson Hewitt today. No-fee refund advance loans by Republic Bank offered to eligible clients. Money today guarantee if approved for a loan on a prepaid card. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
With attorney Nana Gyamfi. Attorney Gyamfi, tell us, if for folks that are interested in finding out more about BAJI, joining BAJI, or trolling you on X, what can they do? And talk to me about your event today.
So, yes, if you want to learn more, go to BAJI.org, BAJI.org. You can go to X, as they call it now, at BAJI Tweet. And you can also go to Instagram at InstaBAJI, where we will be today hosting at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern time, our Insta Live, talking about this border bill, talking more about migration, talking about the connection to the 1994 crime bill, which has its 30-year anniversary this year. I got to come back and talk about that, Dominique.
Yes, let's do that.
And so please check in with us and let us build community. Let's build together.
That's a great point. So that's InstaBAJI at 9 o'clock, right after this show. You'll have to listen at the same time you listen to Tavis Smiley.
Absolutely.
So it looks like the crime bill. Can we repeal that? Okay, that's another show for another day. But it looks like this immigration bill is dead, right? I mean, it failed on yesterday. Republicans are shutting it down, as you say. They're following their little leader. So why are we worried about it? Are you thinking that this is coming back? We've been complaining for years that we need comprehensive immigration reform and having a uniform policy that gets rid of some of the racial bias and injustice in the system. It does seem like more resources are needed to process people better in terms of the courts and such. Why are we worrying about this bill that appears to be DOA?
Because Senator Schumer told these people yesterday that he's waiting to hear what any amendments they have, and so now he's trying to pull together 60 votes with the Republicans to get the thing passed today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it, but I've been wrong before. I didn't think we were going to elect Trump, so I
don't see it myself, but I understand that. I mean, the vote yesterday, though procedural, was 49 to 50. That was really surprising to a lot of people. There were people who normally we would expect not to vote no that voted yes because they want money to go to Ukraine or because they want money to go to Israel, and trying to make it seem like it's not the border bill. Yeah, we think the border part is horrible, but we must support this war stuff. And so this is, supposed to be the war bill, really, with the border bill as the chocolate sweetener in the middle. And they're talking about pulling out certain aspects of this bill to appeal to Republicans. So they're not going to be the good aspects you just described. And so we've got to push back. We got to push back.
One of the things that's in this bill, which I feel like will come up, whether it's in this bill or, the president is actually talking about executive action right now, executive orders on immigration, is this idea that the president would have the right to shut down the border for up to 270 days a year. Some even border agents who, the border agents actually,
CBP, yeah,
they endorse this bill, but some have said that a total border closure could create chaos, especially since it would impact Mexico.
Yeah, the thing is that we know that from Title 42. We've been here before, like not that long ago, that's what it does. It creates chaos. And President AMLO of Mexico has made it very clear. He not playing ball. He said to play ball, they got to give permanent visas to the Mexicans in this country that have been here for more than 5 years, and the blockade on Cuba, take the sanctions off of Venezuela, and the list goes from there. So that means he's saying he ain't playing ball. So that's going to be hard for them to actually make happen without total chaos. You think they think there's chaos now? Go ahead and close the border and see what happens.
They're also saying that this bill would end the practice of catch and release, which means that people could be more quickly removed, right?
Absolutely. First of all, the term catch and release is what we use for animals. It really
fish.
annoys me when we use it for
sorry.
people. Yeah. But it's not you. No. That's the term that they use. So it's not. You're not making up the term. I know you, Dominique. This is not coming from you. This is a term that they use out here in these streets, right? And I think the other piece is that, yes, but people have a right to, if they claim asylum, to go to court and lose, right? And so you're kicking people out without allowing them due process, which is what this country isn't supposed to, be about, due process. So this would be like evicting someone without allowing them a court hearing and saying, oh, this is great, though, because it makes us get spaces open earlier. That's good for landlords, but not so great for us, we who are tenants.
Also, this idea of credible fear. When you're seeking asylum, they're talking about raising the standard.
They're talking about raising the standard. All of these things, by the way, shutting down the border for a quota, the quote-unquote catch and release, raising the standard, all of this is illegal under international law. So it's a genocide, though. So, but that's what it is. It's illegal under international law. And the United States cannot turn around and tell other countries that they have to follow international law when they just pass laws or try to pass laws that are absolutely breaking the law of the international community. So yes, that's something else that they've thrown into the mix, but it is literally illegal. And some of these things are already happening by executive order, which is important to point out. What they're trying to do is to make it the law of the United States of America, right? And that's important. It's an important difference.
So now we only got a couple minutes, and I have got about 100 million questions for you. So I'm not going to get to them. So I guess I'll pass you the mic. And what do you want to say in this last minute and a half as we process all of this stuff happening with immigration, with possible executive action, and with how it impacts Black Americans?
So I think people should think about the fact that these systems are all connected. They're not separate systems. Just as we now understand that the child welfare system, for example, is connected to general system of police enforcement in this country, the system of immigration enforcement is not a system that just impacts migrants. Not just because ICE has literally shot dead African Americans, thinking that they were migrants, but, you have things like CBP with snipers, which is Customs and Border Patrol, supposed to be on the border, with snipers at the George Floyd funeral as part of the protest, and that's a report that's on BAJI's website, part of the protest that we have against what is happening to Black people. The killings of Black people, ICE and CBP, they have so much money that they have time to send them into our protests and arrest people in unmarked cars with unmarked clothes on. We have to understand that any time people push towards a detention and deportation way of addressing things, that increases mass incarceration. There was this same kind of panic about what was happening in our streets and real serious conditions in terms of the 80s and the 90s, and the result was the 1994 crime bill that decimated our communities. Let's not let these folks make that mistake again. Let's stand up now and not have to tell our grandchildren that when this moment happened, we were silent, and that's how we all got riled up as Black people.
Attorney Nana Gyamfi, as always, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having me, Dominique.
I'm quoting Marcus Garvey on the way out the door. He says, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds." Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a great lineup for you. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Freedman Friday is tomorrow. And until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 5 Marines who had been missing in California have been found dead. A search began